The movie Dances with Wolves is known for its stunning landscapes, emotional storytelling, and multiple Oscar wins. But hidden in plain sight is a mistake so obvious that once you notice it, you'll never see the scene the same way again. It's not just a small background slip-up. It appears in one of the film's most emotional and important moments. Somehow, this error went unnoticed by editors, critics, and even die-hard fans for over 30 years. The mistake happens in the movie's final scene when John Dunbar, played by Kevin Costner, is saying goodbye to the Sioux tribe. It's a deeply emotional farewell, with powerful dialogue and beautiful cinematography. But if you look closely, you'll see that Dunbar is dressed in light clothing. No coat, no warm layers, while everyone else around him is bundled up in heavy winter gear. The ground is dusted with snow, and the cold is clearly visible, yet Dunbar seems unaffected by it, as if it were springtime. This wardrobe difference suggests that Costner's shots and the extra shots were filmed at different times, possibly even weeks apart, with very different weather conditions. It's a clear continuity error, one that could have been fixed by giving Costner warmer clothing or adjusting the edit. Usually, mistakes in important scenes get fixed during post-production, but this one made it into the final cut. It could be because of time limitations, budget constraints, or even a creative choice to keep the powerful performance rather than reshoot for accuracy. While most casual viewers are swept away by the breathtaking scenery and moving story, sharp-eyed fans may notice the inconsistency. For them, it becomes a small but fascinating reminder of the challenges filmmakers face when shooting in real, unpredictable outdoor environments. In the end, it's just one flaw in an otherwise masterful film, an error that doesn't ruin the emotional impact, but instead adds a bit of behind-the-scenes intrigue for movie lovers to talk about. Just when you think a wardrobe mistake is surprising, the real jaw-dropper is what it took to pull off one of the movie's most famous moments, the massive buffalo hunt. This scene wasn't just a quick action shot. It was one of the most ambitious sequences ever filmed in a Western, taking 8 long and exhausting days to finish. Kevin Costner, both the director and star, wanted the hunt to feel completely real. That meant no computer effects, just actual stampeding buffalo, which made the planning and execution incredibly complex. The production used around 3,500 buffalo from South Dakota rancher Roy Hauk's herd, the largest privately owned herd in the world at the time. Every day started before sunrise, with wranglers working for hours to get the animals in position. But buffalo are unpredictable, so the crew had only a 5 to 8 minute window each day to film the stampede. To capture the chaos from every angle, cameras were mounted on helicopters and pickup trucks. For shots where actors had to be close to the animals, the team used domesticated buffalo. One was Mammoth, owned by musician Neil Young, and another was Cody, who belonged to a South Dakota meat supplier. Cody had been trained in a surprisingly simple way. He would charge toward his handler if he saw them holding a cookie. This trick helped create the nail-biting moment where the character smiles a lot nearly gets trampled. For scenes too dangerous for real animals, the crew used incredibly realistic animatronic buffalo, which cost Costner's company about $250,000 to make. They also built foam rubber props for later scenes. The result was a breathtaking sequence that still stands as one of the greatest and most authentic action moments in modern Western cinema. But bringing Dances with Wolves to life wasn't just about big scenes. It came with real dangers for the people involved. Filming in wild environments with unpredictable animals and intense stunts meant injuries were almost inevitable. Kevin Costner himself was hurt during a violent wrestling scene, and many cast and crew members also suffered scrapes, cuts, and other mishaps. The production was so physically demanding that they brought in Mike Kenny, a man who had originally auditioned for an acting role but ended up staying on set to provide medical care. He treated injuries as they happened, proving just how tough and hazardous the shoot really was. The challenges of filming Dances with Wolves went far beyond complicated shots or long workdays. The crew faced the unpredictable dangers of working almost entirely outdoors. Harsh and ever-changing weather, wild animals, and demanding physical scenes pushed everyone to their limits. One frightening incident involved the daughter of cinematographer Dean Semler, who was working as a horse wrangler. While handling the animals, her horse got spooked, throwing her violently to the ground. She suffered serious injuries, including 2 broken wrists, showing just how risky it was to work with live animals on set. But this wasn't the worst accident. In a tragic twist, an extra was thrown from a horse and left paralyzed, casting a shadow over the production and serving as a stark reminder of the real dangers behind creating such an authentic film. These accidents gave Dances with Wolves an unintentional sense of credibility. Viewers saw the grit and realism on screen without realizing the toll it took on those making it. The beauty and power of the final product came with a hidden cost. The film wasn't just an artistic challenge, but a physically dangerous one. Kevin Costner's commitment to realism meant filming in 30 different locations across South Dakota and Wyoming, often far from modern conveniences. Over 108 days, the cast and crew worked through intense weather shifts, from 100-degree summer heat to freezing 20-degree mornings in late fall. Rain, wind, and the rugged terrain made shooting a constant battle. On top of that, the production had to coordinate over 400 Native American extras, 300 horses, and a staggering 3,500 buffalo. Just one mistake or delay could ruin an entire day of filming. The animals, while stunning on screen, were unpredictable. Buffalo were nearly impossible to control, horses sometimes resisted even the most skilled wranglers, and the wolves, semi-domesticated but still wild, required precise timing and supervision to keep everyone safe. Every stunt, every shot, and every movement had to happen for real, in real time, because CGI wasn't advanced enough to replace them. One of the most beloved elements of the movie was Dunbar's relationship with the wolf, Two Socks. To capture these moments, the crew worked with two trained wolves, Buck and Teddy. Even with training, the wolves could be temperamental, which meant every interaction had to be planned carefully. These scenes carried both emotional weight and real danger, adding another layer of challenge to an already demanding shoot. In the end, the breathtaking landscapes, authentic animal presence, and lived-in feel of the world Costner created came from enduring these hardships. What seemed like insurmountable obstacles during production became triumphs on screen, proving the determination and resourcefulness of everyone involved. Even though Buck and Teddy, the wolves used to portray Two Socks, were used to being around people, they were still wild animals with instincts that couldn't be fully controlled. During one shoot, one of the trainers was bitten and even chased by one of the wolves, showing just how real the danger could be. At times, when the trainers couldn't get the wolves to do exactly what was needed, Kevin Costner stepped in himself. In one tense moment, he personally fed a wolf raw meat to keep it calm and focused for a close-up, avoiding a potentially dangerous situation. The team quickly learned that working with wolves required patience, food, and a willingness to let the animals set the pace. Some scenes took multiple takes, and filming was often paused to let the wolves relax. To encourage interaction, cast members would even howl during certain takes, hoping for a response from Buck or Teddy. While many Hollywood productions rely on heavily trained animals, Costner took a looser, more natural approach to get authentic performances from the wolves. This made an already difficult shoot even more challenging, but it also paid off. The raw, genuine connection between Dunbar and Two Socks became one of the film's most touching elements, symbolizing the characters' deepening respect for the natural world. Using real wolves instead of special effects or stand-ins was one of the film's boldest creative choices, giving Dances with Wolves a level of realism that helped make Two Socks a true character in his own right. Working with wild animals wasn't the only real-life bond Costner formed. His work on the film brought him into close contact with Native American communities, especially the Sioux. The respectful portrayal of Native American life was unusual for Hollywood at the time, and it resonated deeply with the Sioux Nation. In appreciation, they honored Costner by making him an honorary member of the tribe in a formal ceremony, tying a sacred eagle feather into his hair, a powerful cultural gesture. Costner, who had long admired Native American history, was deeply moved by this acknowledgement. Over 150 Sioux extras from the Rosebud Reservation appeared in the film, and Costner worked to portray their culture with dignity, avoiding the primitive stereotypes common in westerns. Most of the native dialogue was spoken in Lakota, adding to the film's authenticity. This cultural exchange was a rare moment of mutual respect between Hollywood and Native America. However, this goodwill was tested years later when Costner proposed building a luxury resort in the Black Hills of South Dakota, a sacred area for the Sioux. Many saw this as a betrayal of the respect he had shown during Dances with Wolves. The controversy caused disappointment among those who had once celebrated his connection to the tribe. Although Costner eventually abandoned the resort plans in 2013, the incident left lingering bitterness. His story with the Sioux became one of both deep honor and painful regret, a reminder that respect must be maintained through actions as well as words. The film's authenticity also came from the physical work done by the cast, most notably Costner himself, who performed about 95% of his own stunts. Whether riding horses, leaping into action, or being thrown to the ground, audiences could clearly see it was him, which made the story feel more real. In one intense buffalo hunt scene, Costner was actually thrown from his horse but got back on another horse to finish the shot. His dedication, including filming during the magic hour before sunset to capture perfect lighting, showed how committed he was to making the film as authentic as possible. Safety was still a concern, especially during horseback scenes. While the Sioux historically rode bareback with incredible skill, most actors couldn't safely do the same. To protect them, the production used saddles disguised with blankets, allowing the appearance of bareback riding without the high risk. This balance between realism and safety helped the crew bring the Sioux lifestyle to the screen while keeping everyone protected. Even though Buck and Teddy were used to being around humans, they were still wild wolves with instincts that couldn't be fully controlled. During filming, one of the wolf trainers was bitten and even chased by one of the animals, showing just how dangerous it could be. Because the wolves could be unpredictable, Kevin Costner sometimes had to step in when the trainers couldn't get the exact performance needed. In one tense scene, Costner personally fed a wolf a piece of raw meat to keep it calm during a close-up, avoiding the risk of it biting someone. The team quickly learned that working with wolves required patience and plenty of food. Scenes often took many takes, and filming sometimes had to stop entirely so the animals could relax or adjust their mood. To encourage interaction, the cast would even howl during certain scenes to get a reaction from Buck and Teddy. Unlike other Hollywood productions that train their dog actors extensively, these wolves were handled in a more natural, instinctive way. It made filming more difficult, but Costner's focus on realism paid off. What they captured on film was more authentic than any special effect or trained double could provide. A real and touching connection between man and animal, just like Dunbar's growing respect for the natural world in the story. Using real wolves gave the movie emotional depth and a strong sense of realism. The trust built between man and animal during filming became part of the story itself. A simpler option could have been to use computer effects or other animals, but keeping Buck and Teddy in the film was one of the boldest and most effective creative choices, making the wolf, Two Socks, feel like a real character. Kevin Costner didn't just form a bond with the wolves, he also formed a meaningful connection with people. His role in Dances with Wolves brought him close to Native American communities, especially the Sioux. At that time, Hollywood rarely showed Native culture respectfully, but this film did, and it deeply touched the Sioux Nation. As a gesture of respect, the Sioux honored Costner by making him an honorary member of their tribe. This included a traditional ceremony where a sacred eagle feather was tied into his hair, a mark of high respect. For Costner, who had always been interested in Native American history, this was an emotional moment. During filming, over 150 Sioux extras from the Rosebud Reservation appeared in the movie. Costner worked hard to show Native life with dignity, avoiding the stereotypes that had been common in old westerns. Most of the Native dialogue in the film was spoken in the Lakota language to make the story feel more authentic, even though the language use wasn't perfect. This cultural respect helped create a rare sense of mutual understanding between Hollywood and Native America. However, years later, that goodwill was tested. In the early 2000s, Costner planned to build a luxury resort in the Black Hills of South Dakota, a place sacred to the Sioux. Many saw this as going against the respect he had once shown. The plan caused controversy, and some Sioux members felt disappointed and betrayed. In 2013, Costner decided not to go forward with the resort, but the damage to his relationship with the Sioux remained. His work on Dances with Wolves will always be remembered, but the later conflict became a reminder that respect must be shown through actions, not just words. Costner's commitment to realism didn't stop with cultural accuracy. He also performed about 95% of his own stunts. Whether it was riding horses, falling, or jumping into action, Costner wanted the audience to see it was really him, making the film feel more genuine. In the buffalo hunt scene, he was even thrown off a horse, but instead of stopping, he quickly mounted his stuntman's horse and kept filming. This dedication made the movie more immersive and saved production time and money. Some scenes showed the Sioux riding bareback, as they historically did with great skill. But because most actors weren't expert riders, bareback riding was risky. To keep it safe while still looking real, the filmmakers used saddles hidden under blankets. This clever trick allowed them to maintain safety without losing authenticity. The film set for Fort Sedgwick was another example of commitment to realism. When Dunbar arrives, the fort looks abandoned and crumbling, symbolizing his isolation. But filming there wasn't easy. South Dakota was going through a drought, and the small pond near the fort kept drying up. The crew had to bring in water by truck every day to keep the pond looking full for the camera. Without water, the fort wouldn't have seemed believable as a military outpost. A deleted scene explained that the fort had been abandoned because native warriors had taken the soldiers' horses, cutting off their ability to escape or defend themselves. With little support from other forts, the soldiers had no choice but to leave. This detail, though left out of the final film, added richness to the story. Casting choices were also handled with care. For the role of Stands with a Fist, the studio suggested younger, glamorous actresses, but Costner wanted someone who looked like they had truly lived a hard life with the Sioux. Mary McDonnell, who was 37 at the time, won the role with her emotional depth and acting skills. She even learned lines in the Lakota language, which would have been intimidating for many actors. Her chemistry with Costner gave the film a deep emotional core. One of the film's most memorable features was its use of Lakota dialogue. About a quarter of the script was in the language, which was groundbreaking at the time. But there was one problem. Lakota has male and female speech forms, and many male characters accidentally spoke using the women's form. This happened because the language coach was a woman, and time was too short to correct every line. Most audiences didn't notice, but for Lakota speakers, it stood out and was sometimes even funny. Still, the intention to respect the language and culture was clear, even if it wasn't perfect.